Friends, in this video for ithought Advisor, I'm going to talk to you on the topic advisory lessons from the NASDAQ. As an advisor, it's always been our mission to give multiple options to the investor. Finding options before the market finds them and buying into parts of the market where the downside is relatively limited. During the crash of 2020, when COVID struck the world, we were sitting around and discussing what is the safest investment to buy now. And our thoughts went to tech. And then it was a toss-up between Indian tech and global tech. The debate was quite heated. Many of our colleagues believed that Indian tech may not do that well, whereas global tech was definitely better placed to excel. And at the end of the debate, we came to this conclusion that we will buy global tech. And how would we buy global tech? We would advise our clients to buy the NASDAQ 100 ETF. Such a simple product to buy. The logic behind the decision was also simple. We felt that there was going to be a massive QE in the US and these companies were better placed to benefit from that. It was a very easy decision to make. But those companies and the index itself as a composite had lost a lot of money when we made this buy decision. So when we took that advice to the investor, most of the investors were not buying into it because they were probably reading, viewing television or other places and getting information which were continuously telling them that these haven't performed. They haven't performed in this recent years, therefore you should buy them now, was the logic of the investor. So the investor was not buying into the advice given at the market bottom, in what we felt was the safest part of the market. We were actually of the view that the investor could allocate a much higher sum of money at that point to the NASDAQ 100 ETF. But sadly, very few people allocated money, and even those who allocated money did not size their positions well enough. They were not willing to give extra money so that you could size the position better. Imagine at the market bottom, you're not willing to give your own portfolio money in what looked like the safest bet at that point in time. 18 months later, we were reviewing the investment. Things had gone too far. The valuations had moved from one extreme to another extreme, and we felt that it was time for the investor to take a pause and take his money off that investment. So we advised the investor, sell this, take it out. Again, there was a lot of hesitation amongst investors to take their money out of that investment. They didn't execute because they were seeing that everywhere people were going gung-ho about the NASDAQ 100. Retail investors are buying them in the direct option. Socially, they must be seeing multiple people buying that investment at the market top. Here we were trying to tell them at the market top, book these profits, the investment is no more safe, please act. But they are seeing others act exactly in the opposite way and they don't want to be left out. So it was extremely difficult to convince the investor at both extremes to do what is completely in his interest. I would go home thinking that what use is it being an advisor? Because you're telling what is in his interest, but he doesn't want to listen to what you say, but he would rather listen to what he sees in the public domain. The feeling was something like this. It's like a doctor who gives a prescription. Remember, advisory is a prescriptive business. So the doctor gives a prescription which tells exactly what is going to be right for the patient. The patient goes to the pharmacy, gives the prescription to the pharmacist and asks him, do you think my doctor has given me a good prescription? The pharmacist hardly knows the subject of the patient or the history. He just does his own quackery and then he says, no, I think you shouldn't take this. Just wait for some time, think about it. Or he creates some fear in the minds of the patient. So, patient goes home without buying the medicines and advancing the treatment. That's the feeling advisors also got, and that's the feeling I definitely got, because here was a very clear prescription to buy when nobody was willing to buy, when it was extremely valuable and extremely attractively valued, and another prescription to sell when it was extremely expensive and not worth owning. Both the prescriptions were either not executed or executed half-heartedly. Then later, it's quite natural that everybody forgets what happened and the patient will blame the doctor, because nobody sees what is the role of each person and how each person has to fulfill his role in order to get the desired outcome. But there was a lesson from all this, and that's what I want to tell you in this video. Even the most obvious things will not be endorsed by consensus. What is exactly in your interest will be negated by the consensus. So, as an investor, if you are looking for consensus to back what your advisor tells you, you are never going to be on the right path. This is relevant even where you have a formal advisory relationship. On the other hand, if you are going to just pick your advice here and there from social media, from Telegram, from WhatsApp, from friends and family, and then you are going back to the public domain to seek validation from consensus opinion, you are still not going to get the backing of consensus for the best of advice. And this is a problem which clearly is the investor's problem. If a prescriptive advice is not followed, then the onus is clearly on the person who has got the prescription. You can't go back and say, doctor, you gave me this prescription, I didn't follow it, you are responsible. I think fundamentally we have not understood how this whole relationship must work and how it will work best. We still are oriented towards an era where we were either not fully trusting or suspectful, or we were looking at our own ways of doing things, but we want somebody who is an expert to tell us that what we are doing is right. All this won't take one's investing to a better place. And that is the lesson that I learned as an advisor in the way Indian investors approached the opportunity to buy the NASDAQ 100 at the bottom and to sell the NASDAQ 100 at the top. While the NASDAQ 100 once again hurtles down towards another bottom, these thoughts came back to me and I felt it was relevant to share with you so that we don't repeat the same mistake once again. Thank you for watching this video.